Welcome to the Women Leaders Association Daily Member Podcast, where we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. I'm your host, Julianne Kirkland. And in each Daily Member Podcast, we will pick out a great speaker from one of our meetings that we thought you would enjoy. You can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. If you would like to get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or find a networking group near you, or if you just need access to the membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Now let's tune in for this incredible message.
So my career has really spanned public health and mental health institutions and work where really combination of providing mental health care in a fashion that is consistent with public health and providing public health care that is considerate of mental health. So I really see the intersection between public health, mental health, and of course, physical and medical health. I've worked in hospitals, colleges. I also have a small private practice where I see mostly couples. And really just enjoy having a role where I am both the, administrator and and a separate role where I get to be the therapist. So I've never been able to do any one job 40 hours a week without having a little bit of balance. So I was brought here to talk a little bit about having difficult conversations with confidence. And I'll start by saying that it's a lot easier to talk about having difficult conversations with confidence than actually having difficult conversations with confidence. So just to take ownership of it, even for those of us who have been leaders for a really long time, that's not always easy. And coming from a mental health background as a therapist, I think I'm pretty good at engaging that part of the empathic approach. And it's still difficult. At the end of the day, that word difficult still rings true. And so, just to acknowledge that it's never easy going in. And, we all kind of dread it sometimes and wish that wasn't part of our jobs, but as leaders, it is, particularly for myself as a leader in well-being. That is building programs throughout the hospital around well-being. Difficult conversations look a lot of different ways. They could be looking like dealing with experiences, adverse events, traumas that occur on a day-to-day, talking to families, talking to providers when a patient has passed unexpectedly. And it's also having difficult conversations with staff who maybe are struggling themselves, are not doing very well at their jobs, are stressed out, burnt out, all of those things. So when I think about this topic, there's so many different approaches, and knowing what I'm walking into, of course, is always the most important component of the conversation going the way that I want it to go as a leader. And so if I have a good understanding of what I am trying to accomplish, then I can apply these concepts a little bit easier. And to say that also, any one of these as we go through them, it's really important that these interventions or these conversations start, the moment that you become a leader, so that there is trust and honesty and connection built up so that you and the individual can have this conversation in a genuine and honest and loving way. Maybe the wrong word, loving, but I try to approach things from a place of care and love. When I think about empathic inquiry, I try to think about any time that I have to have a difficult conversation, I want to be curious. I don't want to come in with a preconceived notion of what is happening. I don't want to think that, to put myself in a position where I am I've convinced myself that I know what's going on better than the person involved. And so in the, like, let's say that we're talking about a person who is having difficulty at their job, or is not performing as well as they should, or is showing signs of stress or mental health at work. I don't know their story. I don't know what's going on that contributes to them presenting in the way that they are. I don't know how they attach, how they connect, how they show their anger, their sadness, their joy. So I need to go in believing that the person has something that I'm not seeing. And if I can be curious, I might get to see, experience, or hear it. And so compassionately communicating to individuals when you're approaching these difficult conversations, that you're coming from a place of really trying to be collaborative, be a partner in approaching these issues, and to understand that everybody has their own stuff going on, and that you are really trying to build out a space where the two of you can connect and approach the problem or issue or whatever it is that you're talking about effectively and collaboratively. I think is really important. Empathy is not something that we are born with. Some people are naturally empathic. Some people are not naturally empathic. I work at a hospital. I like to say that they're in hospital medicine. When you are, especially with surgeons, when you are that level of brilliant, that probably came at a cost of something. And a lot of times that's social skills, or, having a social work, having the language to really and the opportunities to really address some of the emotional things that happen on a day-to-day. So a lot of our leaders here at the hospital, and in the world, don't really understand what it looks like to show up with empathy. And so if for you feel like you're an empathic person, ask yourself, like, how do you show that? What words do you use to show that you are not sympathetic of somebody's situation, but empathic that they are going through something? What does your body language say? How do you invite the person in physically, emotionally, psychologically? How do you create a space that is safe for them? But also, and I think a lot of us have these boundaries where we have to also think about what is a risk, what are lines that if we cross them are risky. So not overly involving ourselves in that empathic approach. And if you don't feel like you have an empathic approach, or that you want to have one, ask yourself why that is. I think a lot of people, I actually had a meeting the other day about this very topic, where somebody, the physician that I was working with, looked at me like I was a crazy person and was like, are we not at work? Like, are we not just supposed to do our jobs? Like, why do I have to take care of people in this way? And the truth is that it's because we don't compartmentalize ourselves when we go to work and just become workers and then leave and all of the emotions come flooding back. We experience everything all the time as human beings, and that's in our relationships, that's in the work that we do, that's in our, whatever we're dealing with at home, and that is all part of what is being brought to the table. And so we have to be, as leaders, we have to engage all of those things. Appreciative inquiry is really about starting from a place of assuming good intention. That's about how I like to start to think about appreciative inquiry, is that we're going to go in and we're going to believe that the person is not trying to, be difficult, be sad, be depressed, be confrontational. If it's a difficult conversation that you don't want to have, it's likely a difficult conversation they don't want to have, and that they're not showing up there. to be defensive or angry, or not allow you to help. So, and again, I'm looking at this as a spectrum of like, this difficult conversations really can mean something emotionally difficult, and also something that's more as a leader, what are we dealing with in terms of performance? And in both of them, we have to believe that the person is showing up with the best of intention. And so we want to show them that we support them and that the goal of our conversation is really to create an avenue toward improvement. Whether that's somebody who's showing up because they're sad, the improvement is to move past the sadness and heal. And if it's team building, it's building connections with with our work colleagues. If it's a performance issue, it's about improving and supporting the person to improve what they're doing in their day to day. So you're really thinking about like, how do you come in from a place of positivity, and a place of positive energy, where you're saying, all right, here we are, this is difficult, and we're going to work on it together. We're going to figure out what the next steps forward are together. That doesn't always need to be a really dreary, scary conversation. And so if you can take ownership of that, if you can invite the person in and look forward to learning more, gaining insight, and building a path forward with the person, then they can come with that same level of energy. By the way, as an aside, a lot of these are, if you were to look them up, these are a lot of ways of engaging hospital-based practitioners. A lot of these concepts and approaches evolve from burnout that happens in healthcare. And I love them because I like to apply them to all different types of fields. I think they span the way that we engage in all different types of work that we do. And so by all means, like any one of these concepts, you can look up and learn about how they were developed and built around healthcare, but also think about how you can adapt them for your own business or listen, sort, empower. So if in a difficult conversation, right, what we often happens is that we kind of come in, especially if we don't want to have the conversation, like you kind of prepare yourself, you guard yourself, you get ready to have this difficult conversation. And that, again, that's that negative, like, okay, I'm bracing myself for this. And I just need to be able to say X, Y, and Z, and hopefully this will be over as quickly as possible. The person will hear it and then they'll leave, right? That's not really the goal, right? Like we want, in order to have a positive outcome, it's not just about getting your message across. It's about listening to the individual and what's going on with them, what's happening in the environment, what's happening between the two of you and your relationship, between their relationships with others, and starting from a place that allows us to start from that place of empathic and appreciative inquiry, where we're saying, this might not all be about the things that I need to tell you, but this might also be about something that you are carrying. And so by listening, I might solve the problem that we came together for just by hearing what's going on with you. And, and the direction of the conversation can go very differently. And once you have gained some of that insight, starting to sort out what is within the individual's control, what is within the institution's control, what is within the manager's control, what is within your control. I know myself as a leader, I'm a fix-it leader, right? Like which is so interesting. It's such a when I go into a therapy session, I am all about empowering you I figure out what needs to happen in your life to improve your outcomes. But as a leader, I tend to walk into spaces being like, I just need to fix this because I have 20 million things that I need to do. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. So I'm going to deal with it and then move on. But if I take the time, which I try really hard to do, and try to identify, all right, what is my role in this? What is your role in this? What is another person's role in this? That I don't actually have to do all the work. And I most likely am going to prevent having to deal with this situation over and over again. And then, like when you don't listen, it's a passive way of shutting somebody down. We don't want to shut people down. That leads to more burnout, more dissatisfaction, more disengagement from our staff. So inviting them to the conversation and then helping identify what role you serve, and then empowering the person to manage and to build solutions toward the issue that they're having themselves, rather than you solving the problem for them, can really help those conversations go in a different direction. So now you're not being the person who is just talking about, and again, this can go in any situation. This can be I just experienced a loss and I don't know how to grieve. And so listening to about the issue, talking about who else this is the grief affects, and empowering the person to get the help and the care that they need. Or it could be, I'm not doing a very good job, or you're not doing a very good job at your job. Listening to what's going on in the person's life, identifying what roles each person plays, and empowering them to make changes that can help improve their productivity or their work or whatever it is that you're discussing. Getting rid of silly stuff. Again, these are funny, like you wouldn't think about it, but they are funny little healthcare things. This needs to happen, and we need to go into difficult conversations, assuming that there might be little things that build up for people and that contribute to their productivity, to their experience, to their emotion, whatever it is. So, for example, if I actually use this example quite a lot, is that if we think about a mosquito bite, right? Like if I get a mosquito bite, it itches, it's annoying, I'm annoyed, and it goes away and I'm fine. If I get 10 mosquito bites, now I'm really frustrated. like why does this keep happening to me? If I get 100, then I feel singled out. Like I'm like, why is this such a barrier for me to like walk down the street without this happening to me? Right. And a lot of times the things that people are dealing with are as small as a mosquito bite. It's just that they're happening over and over and over again. They are experiencing no relief and no assistance in removing the mosquito from their vicinity. And so, using the curiosity, appreciative inquiry, and listening, like starting to coming from a place where let's identify what are some of the things that we can improve? Not huge institutional things, but what are some of the things that we can, as a leader, that I can improve for you, that takes out one little stressor and makes it a little bit easier for you to, do your job or manage your emotions, or have a good relationship with your colleagues or whatnot. That could be anything from, my colleague is, makes me fill out 20 forms every time I need something simple. It's like, all right, well, let's talk to that person and identify a route forward where you don't have to fill out 20 forms. It could be I have been asking for the air conditioning to be fixed in my office for 2 years now, and it's still not fixed. It's like, why, as a leader, you need to first ask yourself, like, why are these things not happening? And how do you use your authority and control to get those needs met? Because when you remove those small barriers, I call them pebbles, we at the hospital, we have a pebble project where we invite people to bring in what are some of these little things that kind of contribute to the feeling undervalued, feeling not seen, feel not heard, not cared about, and that make it difficult for you to achieve simple goals in your workplace. So always assuming that there is something that might be contributing, something small that if it is built up enough might be a barrier to success for the individual. Also, coming into these conversations not with a goal in mind, right? We oftentimes, when we talk to other people, a lot of times we don't listen. We think about what we want to say next. Right. And that creates that can create a huge miscommunication between two people who are trying to accomplish something or trying to really engage in change. So coming from a place that says, yes, I'm coming in and we are at this current state of mind or current state of whatever that is, and we need to get to a future state. I'm not going to determine what that is until I've had that conversation. I'm not going to have a preconceived idea of what needs to happen before I've even engaged with this individual. I'm going to just accept that we are one place and we have to get somewhere else. So what are the components that need to be in place to move us to the next step? And so we don't necessarily need to know what the final step is. We need to know what the next step is. And a lot of times when we are talking about difficult things, again, performance or mental health related, emotionally related, we go to the end point so quickly. Like, there's a loss. I need to get over my grief. Like, there are 3,000 things that need to happen between experiencing loss and moving past your grief. We talk about the 5 stages of grief. This is a really good example. It's like there's 5 stages, but there may as well be 1,000 stages because it's not linear. You don't go from anger to depression and you never experience anger again. It's not linear. You are back and forth. You are going through these stages at different times based on different triggers, based on different conversations, experiences, whatnot. So what you need when you are in a state of grief, the first thing that you might need is to not cry so much, right? So how do we get from, crying 5 hours a day to crying 4 hours a day? It's these might be small steps. It might be I need to go from being the worst employee to the best employee. You need to go from being able to manage your time. You need to be let's work on that one small goal. There is a future state where we continue to build our capacity and our ability. And I as a leader am going to, or as a partner in this, am going to walk that road with you to make sure that along the way you are supported and cared about, and that we both have the hope for a future state where it's not constantly seeking improvement. But I'm not worried about you getting to that final stage right now. Right now, we're just going to go to the next step. Trauma-informed leadership is, I think right now, especially post-pandemic, and all of the traumas that we've experienced in our lives, literally everybody experiences trauma. There's big trauma, there's little trauma, and to be really, really honest, kind of like the mosquitoes, big traumas, a lot easier to deal with because you can very clearly say, oh, this thing happened. It was big. It set off a reaction in me. It set off, something in others. we need to look at it, identify it, work through it, and then get over it. But really what, like, for example, for using the pandemic as an example, like the pandemic, like living daily in fear of getting an illness that's going to kill you, like potentially, right? Worrying about hugging your partner or your loved ones, not being able to have, social connections. These start to wear on people, right? And these little tiny traumas, they start to become complex over time. And so as leaders, we need to look at, by looking through a trauma lens and saying, there's something going on that is contributing to this person's experience and how they are showing up and what they are bringing to the table. And I need to, create space for that to exist, and be mindful of it and sensitive to it. It doesn't mean that you're not looking for, that goal, that in that difficult conversation, you're not looking toward like improvement. You are looking toward improvement, but you're also coming from that empathic place that says, like, you are a full being with lots of experiences and lots of traumas. And the last couple of years, we have all been impacted by those. So how are they showing up for you? Is what we're talking about today a result of some of what you've experienced in your life? And trauma-informed care in general, we always want to think about that in the language that we use, in the physical presence that we take up. So, for example, I think a good example would be to say, like when you enter a room and you say, you assume or you identify somebody by their gender. I think that's one we are all seeing a lot of right now, right? Like every time a trans person gets misgendered, that is traumatizing, right? So I'm going to come into the room understanding that everybody in that room may not have the same gendered experience that I do. And so I'm going to show up and offer, to understand and know what somebody's pronouns are before I use them, right? So that would be trauma informed. If I'm teaching a class and I want to show a video from a movie, or like I want to show a clip of a movie where there's violence, I need to know that somebody in that room may have experienced that type of violence. And by showing that, I can trigger that trauma and create a negative experience, And so there are steps that I can take to be more thoughtful about how I present. It doesn't mean that you don't have to show the video. It means that you have to present it in such a way where people know what they're about to watch, that they can opt out, know that they can talk to you about it, know that something might be triggered, and that you are available and aware and engaged in this process with them. And I'm not trying to make it a bad experience. In general, I think that goes really fast, doesn't it? So basically, having difficult conversations really does mean coming from a place where you are empathic, curious, that you have an impact. You have the ability to make a really significant impact on the person's life in front of you. That doesn't mean that has to be through solutions. That does not mean that, like, when somebody comes in your house, in your house, in your room, in your office, or whatever, in your clinic, and they are looking to you and you are about to engage in a difficult conversation, that it needs to be fixed. It means that you need, like, that difficult conversation can have a positive impact if you are warm, compassionate, understanding, engaging, listening, and authentic, genuine, I like to say that the best way to be a leader is to be human, and to not distinguish yourself in a hierarchical role, but rather as one human talking to another human. And that really makes a huge amount of difference in the trust and the safety that people feel with you.
Hey, my friend, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, be sure to rate, review, and share your biggest takeaway. And if you're wanting more, you can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. You can also get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or a networking group near you. Or if you just need to access your membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Because here at Women Leaders Association, we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. That's all for today, my friends. Bye for now.